Hi and welcome to Cookalong Live. This is week 3. What we're going to make is a chicken, leek and bacon soup. So let's get started. So what we're going to start off with is we're going to start off with our leeks, and we're just going to chop them up, trim the edges of them, so trim the top and the bottom off. And then just chop them up. This is quite an easy, soup's always a really nice one to have, nice winter warmer. It's quite an easy recipe to follow along at home, and I hope that you have picked up one of our packs from the pantry. Of where I am just now, actually, in the pantry. So the first thing we need to do is we need to chop up your leeks and your onions. And this is quite a lot of leek. What I would do is I would maybe see kind of how it's going with the leek. If you think there's too much, then just put like 1.5. I think that's what I'm going to do. So just keep going, keep chopping it up. So that's your leeks done, and then you're doing your onions. So just the same as what we I've talked about before, about how we dice our onions. You kind of want to, doesn't really matter how big or small you chop up this recipe, because it's all getting blended at the end anyway. So just chop top and bottom off. It doesn't really matter what size of onion you use for this one, because leeks and onions kind of do the same kind of thing to a recipe. So just chop it up. The smaller you chop it, obviously the faster it cooks, so just bear that in mind when you're frying off your vegetables, which is the next step. So now that you've got all your veg kind of cooked, cut, sorry, you're gonna go into you're gonna spray a large saucepan with oil. Just let that heat up. And then what you're going to aim to do is basically cook these until they're soft, so they're not brown like some of the other recipes we've used before, but it's just soft, starting to soften, and then that's when you add in all the rest of your ingredients. In the meantime, just put them onto the plate. And mix it all in, make sure all the oil's got it across. All we do is we'll get a peeler for our potatoes, because that's the next thing we're going to have to chop up. And then we're cooking the gas. So yeah, just make sure that you're not burning the bottom of your pan. just keep mixing it in. So kind of roughly 5 minutes for that. In the meantime, you're just going to be peeling your spuds, and that's when you're going to chop up your. So the next thing you're going to do is your potatoes and your bacon. This recipe is a really good quick recipe if you're kind of in a rush. It's also feasible after you've cooked it, obviously. A couple of other things with this recipe: it can be gluten-free if you use gluten-free stock cubes, and it can be dairy-free as well if you use gluten-free, dairy-free cheese. So we're kind of hitting in most of the allergens. So just go around. Just keep peeling it. I know it's quite hard work. Doesn't really matter if you keep some of the peel on your potato, because again, we're splitting it, it's not like we're going to eat it straight away. So what you're going to do with the potato is just you're going to kind of chop it up into 2 centimetre chunks. Again, it doesn't really matter as such how it's cooked or how big the chunks are. The bigger the chunks, the longer it will take to cook. And actually, let's just try and make sure you've kind of got similar size chunks across the whole of your potatoes. In your packs, there was a couple of really big potatoes, so you might only have one, but rest assured that's still the right amount when you're cooking this recipe. You don't need any more. Now you could, if you've got more leftover veg in the house than this, you could add it all into the recipe. Obviously it wouldn't be chicken, bacon and leek soup, but you could add it in to make a more veg-filled soup. And get rid of those about to turn veg in the fridge, which we all have at home. So that's still going on. You've got to kind of wait for that to soften. Then we add the chicken, the potatoes, the seasoning, the cream cheese. The cream cheese goes in afterwards. But yeah, the seasoning, the bacon, the chicken, and the potatoes go in. And then you kind of put that onto a heat for about half an hour. And then after that, that's when you add your cream cheese, and then you're done. So we'll just let that kind of simmer away. Whilst you're kind of waiting for that to happen, you've cut up your potatoes. With your bacon, you kind of want it to be diced as well into 1 centimetre chunks. Again, it doesn't really matter how well it's chopped up, as long as it's kind of chopped. After cooking or after dealing with this meat with pork, you always want to just wash your hands, just like what we would do with chicken. That just keeps it nice and safe. Again, this is a lovely recipe to do when you're working or you're kind of cooking with kids. because they can start to get knife skills and awareness of what goes into a soup. It's always quite nice to have kids, especially when we work with the schools, knowing how to kind of make your basic soups, kind of your carrot corianders, your lentils, your leek and potato, your tomato. And this one you could just add to that kind of collection. So that is the bacon that you kind of want to chopped up. Doesn't really matter if it is smoked or unsmoked. If it's smoked, it'll just give you a bit more of a kind of more of a flavour or taste to it. But that would be similar to what we kind of do with ham if it was a leek and potato soup. So what you're going to do now is you're going to kind of wash your hands, and then you're going to add in the veg to the soup. Okay, so now that the leek and onions are kind of softening and they are starting to brown, we're going to add in our bacon, our potato. You kind of just want to make sure it's all mixed in so then it's all getting the heat. You want to put in your herbs and your mustard pounder. So that's got thyme, parsley and mustard pounder in it. You also want to make up your stock. So you want to add up to 1 litre of stock, of chicken stock. So we gave you 2 cubes. So I'm just going to do and you're also going to add in your chicken. Just make sure all this herbs that you've put in is kind of coating all the veg, and your bacon. Again, it doesn't really matter how broken up your chicken stock is, because it's just going to get put back onto the boil anyway. It will dissolve. So just doesn't have to be exact, just do that and then put it. So that's got mostly everything you need in your pan just now. What you want to add in fully is your chicken thighs. So you don't have to chop these up at this stage, just plop them in. What you want to now is you want to bring it up to the boil, and then after that, kind of let it simmer away for about half an hour. So just turn up the heat to get to the boil, and then let it simmer away. What I'd recommend is putting the lid on top of it when it's boiled. I don't think this is the lid, but it will help to all this. So what we're basically going to do now is we're going to kind of clean up The soup is getting to temperature. We just want it to get to boiling, and then we'll cover it. When it gets to boiling, what you want to do is lower the heat, cover it, and then you kind of know when it's cooked when the potatoes are soft and the chicken is fully cooked. That's two things that you need to make sure that are cooked before you kind of can go to the next stage of the process. So we're just gonna yep. It's always the worst thing, waiting for pot to boil, but we're getting there. If you do like a chunkier soup, rather than kind of what we're going to make is we kind of blitz it, you can just take out the blender and processing part, the food processor part at the end. Right, so now it's boiling. We're going to just put it onto a medium heat for half an hour until the potatoes are soft and the chicken is cooked, and then we're going to come back and we'll see how it looks. See you in a bit. So just continue to kind of stir the soup around during that kind of cooking time. Just make sure everything gets kind of the bottom of the pan. When you're waiting for your soup to cook, I would measure out 25 grams of cream cheese and leave that to the side. Get a bowl ready with 2 forks. And if you've got bread that you want to have with it, maybe that's the time you want to chop it up. So that's also finding out your hand blender for later on. Yeah, keep stirring it. If you have got a thermometer at home, the chicken inside, when you know it's cooked, it's white, but if you want to be more scientific about it, anything over 75, 80 degrees, you know it's cooked and it's safe to eat. You can see that I've taken off the lid. It was just making a bit of a mess for me, but also if you need to put more water in, I would add water in rather than kind of covering the lid there. But yeah, so now it's been about 15-20 minutes. And if the potatoes are starting to get soft, I'm just going to check actually these potatoes. Yeah, they're starting to soften, and your chicken is starting to go a white colour, which is what you want. So again, you've probably got another 10 minutes on this, and then after that we will remove the chicken, and then you add in the cream cheese. Yeah, so we remove the chicken, put that to the side, and then we blitz the soup, then we add in the cream cheese. So it is coming all together quite well. As you can see, we're kind of running through a recipe. We would, at the Benefit, we use Pinch of Nom all the time. They've got about 9-10 books. They're all kind of quite low calorie, but kind of cheap recipes that we can all make at home. So all this cooking series, we've used Pinch of Nom recipes. This one today is from the Budget Cook cooking book. The last two came from the air fryer. The air fryer book, which is one of their brand new ones. You can see more Pinch of Nom recipes on their website, Pinch of Nom, but also we kind of adapt them and put them on our website as well. But as they would recommend, pinch of nom. Not only do they give you quite well instructions on how to kind of cook through it, it also gives you some tips and helps you kind of know if you can batch cook it, if you can freeze it, if you can do all things that kind of super savers want to use. The tip that they give for this recipe is that even though we use chicken thighs, you can use chicken breasts, just use the equal amounts of chicken breasts. Chicken thighs are cheaper in stores than your chicken breasts. I think they're a lot more succulent and a bit more juicy, especially when it's in the soup. This is the first time I've actually made this soup, because I'm always stuck in the same kind of situation as I'm guessing most people would be when it comes to soups and making kind of their staples, your lentils, your canned coriander, all that kind of jazz, vegetable soup, Scotch broth. So I never really got in my comfort zone of doing soup. So this is a new one for me. On our website, you'll see that there is a lot more soup recipes on our website. We could do a really good butternut squash soup, spicy butternut squash Thai soup, which is really good. So now I've turned up the heat of the pan just to get it more ferociously boil. What I would do at this point is kind of check your chicken. So you want to take your chicken, put it into a bowl. My chicken's going to cook up slightly. You want to make sure that there's no, just leave that to kind of boil. But you want to make sure that there's no kind of pinkness in the chicken. And then what you're going to do is you kind of want to shred this chicken up. You want to shred this chicken up, so you're kind of using 2 forks and you'll be pulling the chicken apart. It's hard to do when it's not. But you kind of want to finely shred it. I mean, you can kind of shred it as much as or as little as you want. To make it, you want it chunky, you can just chop up the chicken. Or if you want it kind of, like I say, shredded a bit more, shred it. Just, it's all to personal preference, and that's what we always say with cooking in general, it's always personal preference. If you want to add more or less of ingredients in, feel free, because at the end of the day, you're the one that's going to be cooking it and you're the one that's going to be eating it. So, kind of, the recipe's there to guide you, but actually, what we're kind of looking for is kind of people to be more imaginative with their food. And this is actually a really good point as well when it comes to kids cooking. It's always good to let them kind of design. I remember at school they used to design a pasta sauce that they can make from the very start. Giving them maybe even like a list of things we can buy from the shop, and then getting them to make a recipe with those things. So tell them, maybe giving them a bit of support into kind of what they would be looking to make, but you are kind of giving them the opportunity to help with cooking, but also giving them kind of that whole taste and sensation that you kind of want to give to them as well. Okay, so now your chicken, as you can see, we've kind of cut up the chicken. I quite like it chunky, because then you've got big bits of chicken in your soup. So we're going to leave that there. Just leave that there just now, because we don't add that in yet, because we're going to blend. this soup. So when you think it's done, take it off the heat, and then you're going to blend up your soup. Just making sure that blitz it until it's completely smooth, or to your desired taste, but I'm going to do mine. So I'm just going to do something so that I can use it a little bit more. So you're going to just hand blender. If you don't have a hand blender, if you've got a like just normal blender, like a smoothie maker, you can put it in there. What I find quite helpful is if you kind of tilt the pan or the So that's your soup blended. What you're going to do is then you're going to add it back onto the heat. You're going to add it back onto the heat. You're going to add in your cream cheese. Until it's fully dissolved into the liquid. So you'll be able to see when you add the cream cheese in, it'll take a bit of time, but just keep stirring it in. You'll see it kind of go a creamy, kind of white creamy colour. That's when you know it's kind of done. You're just kind of stirring the cream cheese in. If you don't want to add cream cheese, you could add, like, if you've got cream left over, you could add a bit of cream, or you could add some milk as well. With milk, you just make sure you're adding more liquid into it, rather than something that was kind of picking it up. So just be careful with that. But you kind of want to take it to the heat, just gently stirring it in. You're not whisking it at this stage, you're kind of just stirring your pot so it doesn't get burned at the bottom, and just making sure all the cream cheese is kind of melted into the... Right. Okay, so now that that's starting to come to a boil again, what you want to add in now is you add in back in your chicken, so your shredded chicken, you want to add that back into your soup. I mean, you could add in your leeks and all that stuff that's showing the signs as well. And then all you're going to do now is you're going to stir in your chicken. And that's you done. That's your soup made. Kind of, you don't have to bring it back up to the heat again because your chicken is cooked and it's still warm from being in the soup before. What you're kind of doing now is you're just kind of plate up. So, this is the wrong one to use, but the wrong utensil to use. I'm just about to have my tea, so I'm not going to actually have a lot of this. But what you'd want to do is you kind of want to season it to your taste, black pepper, salt, and then if you have some crusty bread, okay. It's always good to have some crusty bread with your soup. It's really good. Next week is our last week of Cookalong, so check back next week to see what the recipe is. See you next Tuesday.